This needs to reach someone in the architecture community, someone in the Black female population, someone considering to go to an HBCU, and someone considering architecture. Also, someone or anyone who's interested in what the heck I be talking about on my channel. The Black experience of being a young professional, emerging professional in the design profession. My design profession is architecture outside of my painting, 5 to 9. Welcome. Subscribe to my channel. Welcome back to my channel, The Ghetto Architect, The Ghetto. Today we're talking about why I decided to not go to a historically Black university or college. And this is no shade to HBCUs because the Black girl in me wanted to go, okay? I wanted that experience, but there are a couple of reasons why I decided not to go. So this video is for anyone who is deciding whether or not they want to attend a historically Black college university for architecture or for any other reasons similar to mine. Obviously, it's circumstantial. And at the time that I was in high school and making the decision to go to college, these are some of the things that were on my mind. And before we really get into the nitty gritty of my reasons, let's talk about how many options I had to go to choose from, right? Let's talk about how many options I had to choose from for a historically Black college university in the Southeast region. There are only 5 historically Black college universities, aka HBCUs, and those 5 are Hampton University, Howard University, Tuskegee University, Morgan State University, and FAMU, also known as Florida State A&M. Okay, now all of those colleges were on my list of applications to submit. Absolutely. Now that I'm getting into the reasons why I decided not to, you're going to know why they slowly got plucked off of my list. Number 1, I was looking for an amazing college experience, just like any other student who was attending a college after graduation. But I had to make a decision on whether or not I wanted to be in significant college debt upon graduating college. And I didn't. The cost of education is honestly a joke and so unserious. So I might have to cut that out. We're not even going to get into that. If my crush is watching this, I just want to say, hey, tell me what you think about the video. I will say cost was definitely a factor, but it wasn't a huge factor, but it definitely contributed to, weighing pros and cons. And I say that because I was going to be in debt regardless of what college I went to. So to be honest, I cared, but I just had to pick my hard. Do I want to pay back 50K or do I want to pay back 150K? It was choose your hard, okay? I know you saw the ad. All of the colleges that I suggested, Hampton, Howard, FAMU, Morgan State, Tuskegee, all of those colleges, you have to pay at least 40 to 50 something thousand a year just to attend if you're an out-of-state student. So I guess that brings me to my first point, or really my second point, since I brought up cost already. Lord, all of the colleges that I mentioned, with the most affordable being Morgan State, range from 35 to 50 something, even 60 something, like 50 to 60K a year. So I could go to school in state for 4 to 5 or even 6 years for that same amount of 1 year at another university. Out of state cost was an obstacle that I faced, whether it was a PWI or an HBCU. So that was just something that I was considering across the board. Number 2 is obviously there are more than 5 historically Black universities across North America, obviously. But only 5 of them, only 5 of them to my knowledge, have a NAAB accredited 5-year degree program, right? And I mentioned in my first video that I was in and out. Okay, I had things to do, places to be, people to see. I was not about to be tied down in school for 8 years. But there are a lot of schools, even PWIs, honestly, of good caliber that had architecture classes, but they didn't have an accredited program. And I did not want to go to college just to get a illegitimate degree in architecture or a focus in architecture. No, I wanted to be ready to take those exams as soon as I graduated college. So accreditation was honestly one of the biggest reasons why I didn't go to an HBCU. And honestly, I see that being something that the profession is working on now, and that's another conversation for another day, but with a progressive mindset and hope for their future. I pray in time that these HBCUs and these PWIs across the board, not every single one, because everything ain't for everybody and every major ain't for every college. But I pray that the schools with architecture really hone in on their program and honestly make it so that the entire point of HBCUs is so that we minorities could have equal opportunity. Architecture is a predominantly white male field. HBCUs need to have everything that the PWIs that are excelling in that major have. And right now, they don't. And that's an issue in the profession. Being optimistic about the future, I see that being fixed or corrected. I see that being corrected. Number 3 was proximity. Okay, as much as I wanted to get out of my mom's house, I love my mom's cooking. And I love my siblings too. Okay, I was attached. I am attached at this big age. I'm attached to my family. Knowing whether or not I can make that drive or consistently go home whenever I need to, I needed to be able to have that flexibility when I made a decision on what college to attend. Tuskegee was just down the street. I would have went to Tuskegee. So location and proximity were definitely not a rule breaker because I was willing to go anywhere to get the best education that I could. Next was reputation and ranking, and honestly, what they accepted, like the terms of their acceptance. So, after I had taken my SATs and my ACTs, whatever I got was what I got. I think I took both twice, and the second time was the last time I was taking them. I got into a lot of colleges and got a lot of scholarships with the scores that I got. But in addition to my test scores, most universities that had a great architecture program on the East Coast or even on the Southeast Coast, they required a portfolio or required an extensive amount of proof that you were artistically talented, right? You were aware of what it took to become an architect, and I didn't have that. So I did what most students do when they don't get accepted or they can't go to the college that they want to do is I started at one school and then I transferred into the school that I wanted to go to. But if you watch my last video, you also know that curriculum is important, and it didn't matter that I transferred with the transcript and credits because none of the credits really had anything to do with the curriculum that I was signing up for when I decided to pursue architecture as my major. A lot of people might not agree with this one statement, but the lack of diversity at HBCUs at the time that I was deciding what college to go to was also one of the reasons that I really wanted to go to a PWI. I wanted my college experience to reflect the world that I was actually going to be in because I wanted to be prepared. I knew I didn't know a damn thing about architecture or about thriving in a predominantly male field or predominantly white field. I didn't know anything about design outside of watercolors and perspective drawings. When I decided to go to school, I also wanted to have an experience that prepared me for the real world, prepared me for my real life profession, something that didn't feel too foreign from what I was actually going to be dealing with. That was a double-edged sword decision because there's nothing that could have prepared me for the real world. I wanted to be involved in a community that actually prepared me for life outside of college, life after college once I was an actual professional. But to be honest, there was nothing that could have prepared me for dealing with design and just the things that come with being a woman or a Black person in architecture. But honestly, going to a PWI actually kind of prepared me because when I was at a PWI, I did experience kind of the microaggressions that I probably would not have experienced at an HBCU. Going to a PWI, I was outcasted the way I would be outcasted in, I don't know, a predominantly male white field, especially when I'm a Black female that is from or raised in the South, with an accent without a silver spoon in her mouth. At a PWI, I did not really see true sisterhood like I would see at an HBCU in their Greek life. I did witness the Greek life at a PWI, and I definitely witnessed the Greek life at HBCUs as I have legacies in my family from Tuskegee. I didn't really see any legacy outside of entitlement at PWIs. I didn't see fostered Black community really intentionally fostered women communities or Black communities that I would see at an HBCU or have seen at an HBCU. I didn't see that at a PWI. You know, the PWI did have a lot of things. They had the money, they had the tools, they had the rigor, they had the accreditation, but they didn't have the legacy. It didn't have community. It didn't have, it didn't have equality, you know, equity. Did not have a rich Greek life. And the Greek life that I did witness was, let's just say it doesn't compare. And lastly, there was not much to relate to at a predominantly white institution while majoring in architecture. Okay, if anything, I was the underdog. You know, I've actually had colleagues, peers in my same year confess to me that they thought that I wouldn't amount to anything. Oh, so I didn't go to a HBCU, but that's because that was not the best move for my career. I had to think about my career before it even started. I had to consider what was best for my career before it even started. And honestly, I would not change anything. As informative and challenging as my PWI experience was, I learned so much. I was as prepared as I could have been as any girl that's Black, that's from the South, that didn't have any architecture experience or, you know, come from a very well off family who wanted to pursue architecture. I think I can say I beat the odds. I turned out exceptionally well. And for that, I'm grateful. So these are the reasons why I didn't go to HBCU to pursue architecture in college. Quick recap: lack of diversity, lack of accreditation, so lack of options, locations, proximity to family, you know, cost of attendance, admission criteria. I do plan on coming back to this topic eventually in my series to dig a little deeper. Thank you for tuning into the Ghetto Architect.